If you're anything like me, you've been playing ABCs for far too long, ever since it debuted in the TCG, and has been editing it ever since to fit the current format. With Darkwing Blast being out in the format and the Shiju cards coming up, you're looking for a way to continue playing the deck in those formats. If this sounds like you, we need to have a talk. This talk really isn't just for ABC players like myself, but for any deck that has a graveyard-centric strategy, especially if those strategies involve light and dark monsters. I'm just mostly going to be talking about ABCs because it's a deck that I love and have played the most with over the years. Let's start off with the issues of Tear Elements, or Ishizu's Tears, if you will. The entire deck is focused around not only getting their cards in the graveyard, but yours as well. This may seem like a very easy setup for your cards, but they're not sticking around in the graveyard for very long. That's because of the Medora or the Kelda that they sent to shuffle your cards back into the deck whenever they so please. You might be thinking, oh hey, just use Ghost Spell or Skullmeister to negate that effect. But then they drop Herald of Orange Light and drop the other card that they didn't activate that turn to, shuffle 3 to 5 more back, and, you're stuck in the same position again, only worse now. Effectively, you put yourself into a much deeper hole than what you were trying to get out of. And you can try to use DD Crow or Called by the Grave to try to counter that, but I guarantee you that is not going to work because they're just going to chain it to Called by the Grave or DD Crow, and not much is gonna happen. I've even seen someone suggest Soul Release, which targets 5 cards to banish them, but that only puts us in the same exact issue as DD Crow and Called by the Grave, in which they'll just chain to it and shuffle cards back anyways, because if they have the trap, they're gonna target whatever they want to keep, and send your pieces back, all 3 of them, or whatever ones they need to just disrupt your plays enough. And in the case of DD Crow, they can, use Herald of Orange Light and, disrupt your plays further, and, fusion summon more, and all that fun stuff that comes with Tear Elements. And if we're going to use a hand trap to negate the hand trap, that's trying to negate our hand trap, we're effectively hand looping ourselves at this point. Which isn't the end of the world for ABCs, I suppose, because the cards that you have could be Unit Hanger or could be some other extender. It could be, but that probably won't matter because they've already set up more disruption. But if they don't have all that, then you can attempt to play your deck as normal. Hypothetically, I can almost guarantee you the second you have B and C on board, your opponent will flip up Super Poly, and you're just not going to be able to do anything about that. I've seen some people propose Mystic Mine and Darkwing No More, basically those board-breaking strategies, which, if it works, I may not even post this video, but that all depends on A, the person getting back to me before I post this video, or the strategy actually being reliable, which I'll get more into that later. The only real way to really deal with this kind of strategy is Mystic Mine, or to just shut off the graveyard entirely, which hurts us too. But if you play it well enough, you can set up your board and your graveyard well enough to play your deck as normal, for the most part. But putting things in the graveyard leads me into my next problem. Bysteals. Bysteals banish a light or dark monster from either graveyard on a quick effect if your opponent controls the monster. And since Tear Elements are all dark, they're going to be pretty prominent throughout the format because Tear Elements is the best deck and may even be a tier 0 deck. The first one since 2017 Spiral. And ABCs leaves no shortage of fodder since they're all lights for Bysteals to summon themselves, making them disadvantaged against Bysteals as well as Tear Element. Now this strategy is a little bit easier to get around with Ghost Spell, but the only issue is drawing into Ghost Spell. You might be watching this, and you might be thinking that I'm declaring the deck dead in this format. Not entirely. If any of those strategies that I described start getting traction, or something I just didn't think of starts getting traction, I may have to try it. And I'm not saying this deck is impossible to play this format, even if those strategies don't get traction. All I'm saying is that there's a very specific set of conditions that have to be in place for the deck to function properly. And it all relies on the RNG, and that is not very reliable. And this goes for every single graveyard-centric deck. Let's take Salamangreat, for example. If any one of those cards goes missing in the graveyard, the combo dies. You could maybe end on a Heat Soul, but you're more of trying to draw into hand trap at that point, and again, you're relying a lot on RNG. Orcust, another deck that is graveyard-centric, and this format would have been amazing to bring Heartport back to 1, because Orcust ain't doing shit this format. Their entire strategy relies on cards existing in the graveyard just to get their effects off. And if any one of those cards goes missing, like in Salad, the deck dies. Even more so, Tri-Brigades find themselves in a similar boat, except they rely on cards existing in the graveyard to use their on-field effect, but same thing is that they're relying on the cards being in the graveyard, and if those cards go missing, the deck dies. And even Mathmech, to a point, relies on cards being in the graveyard to get their trap effect off so that it can XZ summon and whatnot. And honestly, I think this would have been a great format for Thunder Dragon Colossus to come back to 1 on. Here's my thinking. They can use D-Shifter to kind of get around Tearlaments and to use their banish effects. And I highly doubt that Bystials would even want to touch Thunder Dragon cards in the graveyard because they'll get their effects off. I may end up doing that anyways because that sounds cheeky. That sounds fun. But for ABCs, I will say that there is a silver lining. Once or twice a year, Konami will release support for ABCs, either directly or indirectly. This year we got Regulus with the Siran cards, and I do see some people using the Crystal Beast trap to search out Union Hanger, so I think that's our 2 for the year. But we are due for another round of support next year, either direct or just cards that happen to work really well with the deck. Maybe another Link monster that isn't hyper generic and gets banned. Thank you all so much for watching. Let me know what you think down below in the comments, and while you're down there, subscribe to the channel. Until next time, my name is Vincent, and I am the Race Duelist. Goodbye.